She's the founder of Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons in Africa. She is the Miss Africa Elite 2020, Miss Africa United Nations 2020, Miss Elite Face of Africa 2020. She's the CEO Tech Hub Holdings, Tech Hub, which incorporates Tech Hub Creations, Tech Events, Tech Hub Enterprises. She's also the TV host of Neuro Digest on Science TV. She's a Rotarian, as you've heard, from Rotary Club of Moraa. She also serves as the Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator of Zone 22, that's Africa. And then she's the board member at Sense International Kenya. She's the patron, Kenya Scouts Association. I did not know that. Makadara Sub-County, the Top Women in Business 2019 award winner. Wow, nominee in 3 categories: Global Grand Contribution to CSR, Best Government Liaison and Social Entrepreneur Award, DIAR Awards nominee 2020, Diversity and Inclusion of Persons with Disability Champion Award, and finally, Azuri Awards honoree of 2020 in the humanitarian category.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I've been a Rotarian since 2013. Yeah, 2013 at RC Mothaiga, where I've served in various posts until now. The appointment that I got from RI for taking care of the PR directors in the Zone 22, our district. And yeah, it is a task and it's been a journey. And how I want us to interact today, I'd really like to just mix a little bit of my story, how I know it, how I've learned, and the facts finding, because we're looking at following your dreams and we're looking at finding your purpose. Because first of all, not everyone always finds their purpose in life, and we all vary, and there is no manuscript that will guide you or a compass that will tell you, oh, this is it, or you finally found it. But just to give you tips and balances of my story of how I ended up here. As you mentioned, currently in all those things that I serve as, so I'll give you the journey of how I ended up and how a graphic designer ends up being an advocate for special needs persons. I'm still questioning myself on that and feeling like I'm on a career path change, and which is something great. But first of all, what is your purpose? It's that moment when you're doing something, it makes you happy, it gets you fulfilled, and it brings impact. It's more of impact. Most of the times, you'd find that you have your career and you have your purpose on the side. And many people, it never actually hits you that, oh yeah, actually, I am living my purpose. I'm living my dream. I am doing what I believe I was put in this world to do, because that is what actually your purpose is. Something that has greater impact than yourself. So on my side of the story, I'd like to say, when I started out in, let's say, college, let's start from college, changes in drama. I remember when I finished, I have the talent of graphics and visuals and fine art. And growing up, I remember the first times when I was younger, I used to draw and I used to get really beaten up for it, because I'd take a book and just fill it up with scribbles, repeating things. And my dad was not amused because I wouldn't do my homework, but I was doing what I loved doing. So I did that all the way until Form 4. When I finished Form 4, was at Alliance, I told my dad I want to do graphic design. And to me, that was the beginning of our fallout. I wasn't spoken for a long time, because back in the days, according to our parents, purpose was more meaningful careers was teaching, doctor, surgeon, pharmacist. Those are the ones that were considered to be worth the while. So I went against the grain, because most of the time when you want to do what your heart wants to, you have to go against the grain and do the unconventional. So that's the payment I had for that was I had to school myself. And that means I got to hawking in the streets to raise fees. I was working at the EPZ, Carson's packing soap. And the lessons I learned from that now you'll see later, the good thing is, like, everything you do in life will always come to make sense later. Because from hawking, I was able to be built up in terms of resilience, rejection, because it was not the hawking of the street side where I put merchandise and people come to me. It was that hawking of the people who come to your door in the office.
Nonsense.
We have I have this, you know, on promotion, a doorbell instead of 2,000, it is 1,500. Please buy, it has these special features. So you had to go knocking at people's doors. And what that also built in me was their skills of marketing and sales and people. And even every time you're turned down, you go back again another time. And that was my lesson from that. And me going against my parents managed to make me go and follow my heart's desire, which was doing fine art. So which I had to pay for myself. I asked my mom to supplement for me, and I was able to take myself to school. And within, I think 3 months, I had a scholarship. So determination is the other thing. Know your goal, plan for it, and go for it. And you will always end up getting what it is that you want. The good thing is that I had done my research. So you also don't do these things blindly. I did my research and I knew the next big thing in the arts industry was animation and graphic design. Right now on social media, YouTube, whatever, you have to have graphic design skills to get all this, the interfaces for our phones, all this technology relies on that. But then back in the 90s, that was not considered like something that would ever be a career in life. But if you look at now, that is what exactly I am doing. So after employment for a while, where after I also started college and then got into employment part-time to be able to fend and also continue with my evening classes. Then I got married halfway through, not halfway through, let's say 3/4 through into it. So let's say everything I did, I started early. When I found and I felt like, okay, I'm ready for this, I went for it. So being a go-getter is also something that, and having that resilience and the courage, because all these decisions take courage. And when you actually make decisions that are against the grain, you have to have the confidence to stand firm by your conviction and by your decisions, because everyone will be looking and waiting for you to fail. The world, sadly, that is how it is. When people don't believe in what it is that you want to do, they will always be expecting, okay, let's wait for when she will fail and come back, and then we can now laugh or whatever it is, or ridicule. That's just what it is. Then everything that we do, even in our past, it's never in vain. Like I said, all these experiences now came in handy when I quit my job and I got into business. Because when I started my business, even when I was in college, I had already drawn my map that at the end of it, I wanted to have my own design agency that I will work where I will work at and stuff like that. So even when I was in working, I also had my side gig. That was now the design firm. At that time, I was having it with my then husband. So we were running it concurrently. I would do the marketing, extra jobs I sent forward. But then also honesty comes with it, because when I was getting employed at any point, I always made it very clear that there is this thing that I'm doing on the side. I will respect your clients, but no, I have my clients. If I get a big gig that I cannot personally handle, I'll bring it forth and we discuss the terms, because that earns you respect also. Because most people, you start digressing clientele and it becomes disrespectful. And also when you work so hard and work smart in the things that you're doing, other people are watching. For me, I only sent a CV once for the first job I did, but everyone else who watched me do my work, that's how I got my other jobs, by being offered the position. And that gave me a platform also to go in with my own terms. So all this is why I'm talking about this, because this is just a journey of how it builds up to finding yourself and knowing what it is that you want. But then now, after parenting and getting into business, things started to change. Yes, I gained the experience. I worked in different places, and the greatest lessons of employment is working with a small firm. Because at a small firm, I started from a basic front office secretary, worked to a graphic designer, manager, and until the time I left. So that opportunity gives you a platform to learn skills that no one can teach you. As a secretary, I got to understand filing, Microsoft Word, petty cash, and all that. These are things that became very key when I opened my business. And now at that point, when you open, most of the time, it is you have to multitask. You have to find people who can do more than one task to keep your costs low. So plugging in small enterprises and gaining skills, even the small things that you're not taught and you're not told to do, you just get to give yourself the opportunity to do it, helps you in building yourself. And then after that, then I got my 3 babies by 2012. I quit my job in 2010. Yeah, in 2010. So 2 years on, and 2 out of my 3 boys are special needs children. So this was a different quagmire altogether. You've quit your job, you're in new business, things are not as, and trust me, there's a very big difference between entrepreneurship and running and being employed, because there are things that you never think about. So when you step outside is when now it gets to you. And when I got out there, I learned about relationships. All the past relationships I had all played a role. And in life, I always say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And there is a quote here I have that's on my screen that says, "Every lion was once a cub, so you give yourself time to grow." So all these things that you go through in life are always leading you onto something bigger. The only difference is we don't know where we're going to stop when it comes to your purpose. But for our dreams, you can write it down, align it, because your dreams are best and your purpose is best combination of your talent, your passion, your skills, and the experiences you have in life. So everything that happens to you is not the usual. So here I am, I was given these children, I have two special needs children, I have to start understanding this whole new world that no one gives you a roadmap of how to handle it. So the one thing that I always say is like, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Be broke in business when you're starting for a long time. You will lose people who don't believe in you, have sleepless nights, but the one thing you have to do is learn to believe in yourself. And that's the point I had to, when I was quitting my job, I had to align the fact that now I have these kids who need my support. And I believe in myself because I had clientele who followed me from one workplace to another, meaning there is something I had, right, that they were after. Because every time a client would come, I'd tell them, please go back to where I was working, unless it is a mutual consent that it is you I want to work with. And so that means you're not stepping on anyone's toe. And then when you're getting into something new, you do what you love because it inspires and awakens the hearts of others, because that is what happens. Because if you do your things so well, yeah, that is how you end up just giving the best of who you are. And then it leads you to either your passion, and your purpose. And we get to our dreams faster when we align ourselves accordingly. Because life, like they say, is like riding a bicycle. So to keep your balance, you have to keep moving. So even the times when you don't feel like going, because in business, trust me, there are those days you wake up, you want to go back to employment, you want to give up, and you do not even want to hear another day, because there is no 8 to 5. You have to work if it's all night to get things done. So you have to be strong enough to stand alone, smart enough when to say you need help and employ help, and brave enough to actually ask for that help. But when you discover like business is not a thing, you're always ready. It's always welcome to step back into employment, because the cost of that dream and that ambition will require late nights, very early mornings, a lot of associates and very few friends. You will be misunderstood very many times. You will be single unless you're lucky enough to find someone who understands your lifetime, if you get into it when you're not married yet. And then people will want you to do good, but never better than them. There is always that aspect like, yeah, I'll just keep you in that space where you are. And for these reasons, you will have to do so many things on your own, and you have to consult yourself. But even in those times, in the greatest of the challenges in life, and in the journey of discovering who you are, the second greatest is being happy with what you find. After you find who it is that you are, you have to be content with that. Then they always say, if you want to go far, to go fast, you walk alone. If you want to go far, you walk with people. Mentorship is something that is very, very key. And I remember there is a quote I love that says, everyone comes into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I can tell you one thing I appreciate about Rotary is that's why I met my mentor. And my mentor has worked with me, not only in my Rotary journey, also in my personal life, in my career, because there are times you see something, but you always need that eye from the outside that will guide you through, that will see those blind spots that you cannot see. Because remember, when we are painting our own dreams and pictures, everything looks so rosy. So that mentor most likely the person who's worked either in your space or just has general experience in life will be able to identify and spot things that you would not be able to see and help you walk through it and make you think of things from a different angle. So that's one of the things that you need so that you don't make your mistakes, because it will get you faster to your dreams and your ambitions and aspirations, as opposed to when you do it and go at it alone. Learn to learn from other people's mistakes. And then you have to be filled with a lot of strength to carry on when those days are low. I always believe in God. God does not give you something you can't handle, does not put something in your path. When he gave you that talent, even the Bible says, you either choose to use it or leave it. So you have to have faith, stay positive, and get support that you need to meet your needs. But the one other thing that you need, as always, is confidence. Confidence, confidence, confidence to take action of what you need. Because there are times, I remember when I decided to venture off from graphics and I'm thinking, oh, I'm stable enough, let me try the new business, because I was doing things for Pepsi and then they were giving distributorship and it looked very lucrative. I did my numbers, it made sense on the books until I started that business. And then I realized, stick to your lane. You know what you do, not everything that looks good on paper is what you're cut out for. Because from there, I was losing money because it is very income intensive. You have to put in a lot of money because it's volume you're pushing, the margins are low. And then I was seeing the losses coming in. But then my mentor would tell me it's time to exit. And I'm like, no, I've never failed at something. I'm not going to let this one be the first. But you see, the more I was holding on to this business, the more I was losing money. So the point at which he told me, it's time, you have to, and make peace with it. And when I let go, I realized the longer I would have stayed, the more money I would have lost. And it's okay to fail. The skill is in, like we said, keep moving, because you have to keep reinventing yourself. You try, you fail. It's not how many times you fall, how many times you get back up and go at it. And in the long run, you will eventually get to where you want to be. So you have to be above average actually to be able to do this, because most of the time, average people have wishes and hopes, but for confident people, you have to have goals and plans, right? So after very many years of graphic design, I joined Rotary, and Rotary was opportunity for meeting people, and also the people you meet, make sure you network. I remember I did a course on business networking international. At that point, I just entered for myself. But the skills and the lessons I got out of there, if you don't apply also in yourself and your business and the path to your growth, you might not. So personal development has to always be continuous, because that wisdom is what gives you the insight to be able to know when to do what, experience, listen to other people, their failures, so you learn from them. And then you have to learn to create opportunity. How I ended up in my purpose driven, like right now, because for me, I believe right now I'm living my purpose. And my purpose, which is now speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves. That is what Andy Speaks is about. That is advocacy for those with neurodevelopmental disabilities. And it's not something that had ever crossed my mind. And how Rotary played a part in this was Sunshine Rally. When I was appointed by my club to go and represent in the committee for Sunshine, the planning was great. And from all that planning, sitting in the DCA committee and stuff like that, taught me about events. And now I ended up opening an events company. And now under that and branding, my branding was built, and I learned PR, something I didn't believe in, but because Rotary believed in me and my skills of PR, because sometimes the outside person will see more of who you are and what you're capable of, while you will doubt yourself. Because I didn't go to a PR class, but it's a skill that I acquired because of the associations and the voluntary work I was doing for Rotary. And now you turn it into career. And when I went for Sunshine Rally as a special needs parent, I was able to see all these other children. For us who've gone to Sunshine Rally, we know the impact. You know how many kids get there, 6,000 children. And it gave me comfort that I am not alone in this space. But then when I went home, there is one question that I kept asking myself. We do this once a year. What about the other days? Where do they go? Other than that 5 hours of fun, where do these children go? Who continues with this? What do the parents, when do they get the break? And now that got me out of my walls, because I could see children with CP. My children are autistic. CP is more severe. There is the challenges of wheelchair and other impairments that are multisensory. And that's how I started thinking about it and questioning myself. But then you see, sometimes we think about things and we shelve them. Now, also we learn to listen to our conscience and the higher power, because God does not put some of these things in us for just for the sake of it. There is always a reason as to why these things come into our lives. Because at some point in my journey, I was asking God, why on earth would you give me two special needs children? And at the time when I'm actually a single parent, don't you feel it's unfair and too much for one person to handle? But the one thing that I always learned, my mom told me, you always have to learn to do everything on your own. And do not take everything, all the negative that comes your way. You have to also turn them into stepping stones to building yourself. What is in this that I can learn? Why am I going through this? What is the best that I can get out of this? So the other thing we need to do is, if opportunity does not knock, you have to build that door yourself. So I questioned God, and he kept sending me a verse that says, that is Proverbs 31, 8-9, that says, speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, ensure justice is done for the oppressed. Over and over again, that was one. I still didn't hear it. We are human without. He sent me someone here in Nairobi. When I traveled to New York, he sent two people to walk to me like fellow human beings, walk to you and tell you, God says he loves you. Yet I did not still get it. Around the same time, I lost so many of my friends. And there is a photo one day I picked up. We were three chicks in our inner circle. I was the only person alive in that photo. And I asked myself, why am I here? Why am I still alive, and for what reason? So I was like, God, if I'm dying next, like make this quick, but just remember there are kids who need me and they have nowhere else to go. Sometimes you have to have these conversations also with God, and however you do it, a meditation, the higher power that you believe in. And when he was sending all these messages, and every book I would read, there was that story of speaking out, speaking out, speaking out. And that is how I sat and I realized, because I took time out. You also have to realize when you're tired and when you have lack of vision, you need to step aside. I was working too hard. It was time to step back and reevaluate to get to know what exactly it is that I needed to do. So on stepping back, I told my sister, I'm coming to the UK. I told my mom, take care of my kids. I'll be gone for like 6 weeks. I need to figure myself out. And while I was out there, the same thing went on. Every bash I went to, there was the person I sat to had to do something with special needs. I went and my sister asked me, let's go to take my nephew to school. He's in a special school. And we go there and it's all about special teacher. And then as in everything. So that's when it dawned on me. This is exactly what God wants me to do. So you have to listen to that intuition. What is going on around you? What is changing? And then embrace it. Because sometimes it is the smallest steps that we take in the right direction that always end up being the biggest step of our lives. So you have to tiptoe if you have, but you have to always take the first step. So I remember at the end of that year, that's 2018, Daily Nation did an article and they called it, because for me being a perfectionist, I was like, okay, I hear what it is. I did my research, I was reading about it, but I was not moving. I was just researching, because I always tell myself I won't get into something I don't fully understand. But those are the excuses we give ourselves as human beings before we reach our dreams and even our purpose, because we don't feel like we can actually do it. But that is only excuses we give ourselves. But if we gather the courage and actually move forward, you will find that you can actually do it. So there was an article that was done on Daily Nation, and because I was like, I don't have a name yet, I don't want to start wrong, I don't want the wrong impression. I'm a brand consultant, so all these things of course matter, and I know the impact it has. When we start branding, then we have to start rebranding it midway. So I really wanted to do everything correctly. And I remember the first job I had, the motto of the company, which was called the Olive Marketing and Publishing Company, was always getting it right first time. So I've always made that my lesson in anything that I do. I have to do it right, do your research, get your facts right. So when they wrote, they titled the article, when my son first called me mom. And that was 5 years ago, because it took me 5 years for my son to call me mom. All these experiences and challenges I had with school and whatever now were coming in handy in understanding this new space that had never been there before, in understanding how to be the voice. And when I read this article, sometimes when you talk, you don't listen. When I read it from the outside, and that's what I saw, all these kids who are in the same space as my son can never speak. I look at the experiences, the challenges he was going through. He would be in pain, he can't communicate. If you look at the policies around, they don't get favored. And who talks on their behalf? At least someone who's blind can still speak and can move. They have alternatives. Someone who's deaf has braille. We have those who are on the wheelchairs, they can go riot on the street, block the roads with their wheelchairs and say, we need this service, and things will be done. Like in Kenya, if you look at the albinism society, they were able to rally for themselves to get their own budget for their things to be given for support. So I was like, how many other children, how many other parents are going through this like me? The stress in education, in health. And that is where now Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons was born. And at that time, I was still very, very, even now, I'm not at 100%. Yes, there is that fulfillment that you get when you're living your purpose and living your dreams, because there is joy in supporting other people, because your purpose has to be greater than you. It's not about you. It's about what God wants you to do in this platform. I'm not taking you to church now, but that is the fact. It is what it is you're giving. It's giving of yourself that gives you that level of satisfaction and peace. And also you have to find a way of how it's going to support you. So it doesn't always have to be your main hustle. It can be a side hustle. But then also living your dream is now that thing that you've always wanted to be. So you can get the difference. So even in life, no matter how broken you are inside, you have to keep up the pieces, keep going, because it's through that you're now able to rise up and face the world and give something back in return. Yeah. So never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty, truth, and compassion against injustice, against the lying, the greed that's around us. Because if all of us in this world would do that, then the world would be changed. But even as you do that, you have to dream, plan, evaluate yourself and what it is that you want. Then you have to align yourself accordingly. And then all the experiences you've had in life. For me right now, my graphic design skills is what I am using as a platform to raise awareness through e-shops, through like communication. My skills in Rotary, in PR is what is enabling me to be able, because it's those Sunshine Rally promos that are enabling me now to stand in media and be able to talk about what is being, what needs to be done for special needs children. When I look at, like last week, we were setting policy for special needs education and children, how they go back to school with this COVID. It is because I last year when COVID hit, events was cut out. Graphics, of course, is the last thing when it comes to marketing department, is the first budget to be cut off. But instead of despair and I'm like, oh my God, we are doomed, I use that opportunity to work more towards the special needs space, to build the foundation, to learn and gain skill in what was the gaps, and fighting and attending and raising awareness about the children and the parents and the suffering they're having. And currently you find yourself as well positioned in a way that you are an authority on yourself, on your own. Like you can stand and speak because of the experience, because of how you have taken a space, and you have to always identify that space that makes sense to you, that space that speaks to you, because there's something about when you're passionate about something, and also your life story also matters. Because if I'm speaking and I realize God gave me these children, because I would not be able to stand like I stood last year in front of the deputy vice president and tell him this is what is going on with our children and we need inclusion. If it was not for the experience God gave me to have these children and to be able to raise them and go through the hardships, I would not be able to have the courage to stand with authority and say, this is the fact on the ground, because I have walked this journey. So for everything that happens in your life, it's never in vain. You just have to identify the opportunities out of it, mold it into something that where you see there is a gap, and make it make sense, either in your dreams, in business, in going after your dreams, and make all your losses, everything. The losses don't happen for no reason. They happen so that they can build us. So learn to focus on the positive side of life, other than, oh, this is happening to me, or I am doomed, and oh, I am not worthy, and all that. No, that's not it. Turn every stone thrown at you into a stepping stone to make that staircase that will get you to your destiny, your dream, or your purpose. Thank you for your time.
So yes, it has been a pleasure to just listen to you this evening. I'll invite for questions. I'll allow people to ask questions if we have any questions.
Yes, first is to thank you, Sylvia, for a very good conversation there you've given us. And my first question is, how do you come up with innovative ideas which are both scalable and sustainable? Because you've been into different businesses, and when I talk about scalable, is coming up with an idea that is capable to cope and perform under an ever-changing world. Like you're able to come up with an idea which you know is scalable and it's sustainable. Sustainable is you coming up with an idea of doing graphics and knowing 20, 15 years later it will be what people will be going for. And my second question is, what's the best advice you can give to help plan a career rather than simply working to keep a job? Because that's what people are doing. People are working to keep a job rather than planning a career in a special way where you know that your career can only be a job which you are employed, but you can also employ yourself. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So about scalability and sustainability, first, when you're starting, for it to do that, there has to be a gap in the society, in the community that you're feeling. What is that pain point that is there that you're coming to fulfill? Let me give you a Rotary example. If this was a business, it is a project for us in Rotary. There is the Turkana furrow in the desert that we have. You can imagine if that was a business and not a project, because what we do is go and plant in the desert and we can see things growing that have never been there. That is very sustainable because that is the greatest need that the Turkana people and persons in the desert, the north, need. So if someone, I saw a lady who said she went to Israel, she was working at that point, she came back home and she plugged herself into this career, into this project, and she's getting that fulfillment of seeing something coming out of nothing. So that's how you think about it. And even when you're starting, you ask yourself, one, why are you doing what you're doing? How unique is that idea of yours? Then how are you going to do it? Is it going to what do you mean? Like how, in terms of what is your unique selling point, right? What is the value addition that you're giving? Because it's not about the project. They're like, let's say if it's water, it's not about the water. What's the added value in that water that you are selling? Is it your extra customer service that you're going to give? Is it the branding of yours that's going to be, or that advert that is going to bring people? Why should they come to you and not the other person? Because that, of course, will mean money in the bank. And then what it is that you're going to do. The what, it could be a service or a product, either or. So how, for, like the way we're saying, you're bridging a gap, for how long will it become redundant at some point? How good are you at this? Are you willing and ready to employ people who are better skilled than you? Because most people want to be the ones who know it all and stuff like that, but the best secret is bring people who are more experienced than you in the market. And in that space, especially when you're getting into an area, maybe you only know, you have the idea, but you don't know how to execute. So get the best person in that industry from somewhere else who has the skill set that you require to keep you afloat. And you have to be respectful enough to give them the freedom also to speak into your business in that space. So for the ideas, you will align them to the gaps. It has to be filling a gap in the community, in the society. And that's how we also get inventions. Also align yourself with the future. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to know what's coming. When you look at scalability, I started my company like Tech Hub Services. I was doing everything and anything because the industry had worked. But over time, it got to a point I had to sit, realign myself and become specialized. Because also specialization gives you a better stand in the market. Because when you're telling someone you do everything means nothing. So I went back. I had to change directorship also because you have to have the right people in your team. If they're not in line with your vision, then you're not going to move far. So that's when I rebranded to Tech Hub Holdings, and under it, I demarcated what it is I want to do. So I have Tech Hub Enterprises that will work on print only, and I knew digital is coming. So Tech Hub Enterprises was just to sustain, because you see, I had foreseen the digital era coming. So I was like, okay, enterprises will be holding fort for my old clients who still need actual prints on paper. Then there is Tech Hub Creations, which is the one that handles the PR, the branding, the social media management, and all that falls under that. Yeah. And then Tech Event came, like I mentioned earlier, from all the DCA plannings you do, from all the involvement you have in events, and from also branding other people through Tech Hub Creations in the space. I was branding events And I was like, there is a niche that I can actually set for myself in the event space. So then that way you find you have multiple income streams, that if Tech Events gets a job, I know I'll get a job for branding. If Creations gets a job to brand someone else's event, you see, I'm filling a gap for someone else. And then also if a job comes now and the event, you'll find it will feed either all companies or Creations will come and fill, vice versa, all others. So you have to know what you're good at and align yourself by analyzing the industry. So there is something we call now the inverted industry. There is you at the bottom. There is the department that you serve in that follows. Then there is the companies that you want. That is the industry, yeah. And then there is the general career-wise, that what it is that you're looking at. So if you use that inverted pyramid, it will help you to guide you to know exactly how and who to approach when you're trying to align yourself. That's number one. And then planning your career versus job keeping. Having a job is basically selling your time. You're selling your time. While having what do you call it? When being in business is using your time to build your future and your career at the same time. So career is, if you look at the difference of, oh, I just want a job. First of all, well, there is a day I was speaking at an event and I asked people, how many people are actually doing what they studied for? Only 20% are actually doing what they studied for. What is everyone else doing? There are those who did, and why did we go to school? Because most of the time, even our curriculums throw us off, because you end up studying something because that is what you are called for. So someone is doing a job that they don't enjoy, but that's because of what they qualified. So you also have to know where you are and why you are where you are. Then there are those people who just couldn't find a fit and decided to go for what they're good at, and those who followed their careers like sport, that is talent. So you have to also know where you are and how far does this skill set allow you to build your career. Because you see that those that are limiting. When you go doing acting and whatever, here in Kenya, let's be realistic, a musician, you can only do it for so long. Even in the modeling space, you can only model for so long, age will catch up with you. So you have to be factual and aligned, and then plan, if when the time that ends for this, I need to be here. So what do I need to top up and invest in myself to be able to evolve with the changing times, and always be on top of what your career changes are coming up next, so that you keep up. Otherwise, you'll end up like Kodak. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I think you've answered my question in a very practical way and very profound way. Thank you so much. I thank you for that.
All right.
So my question is, for us, like us young guys, probably without mentors, and we are not yet there. As in, when is it that you can know it's time to stop? Like I have done this business, I've tried this business, I've tried doing this, and it's time to stop. Or I'm doing this, as in, is there a way to tell, especially for young people and for young entrepreneurs who are starting up, to know that this is the time to stop? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There is, in general, you can tell by first signs and symptoms. Everything, even sickness, has signs and symptoms. Are you making money? Yes or no? That is profits, not just sustaining, like staying afloat and depending on other people to fund your business. Because when you get things on credit, it's usually like your business is being funded by others, not by you. Like, it's not self-sustaining. When you start making losses, when you think about going to your business and you're like, I don't want to do this, that's your mind telling you you're tired. Although that should be the last. We don't always encourage giving up. But the bottom line is, when you start seeing losses, it's about time you start counting your losses. You can first try and see, what have I not done to make it better? Implement. Because I remember for me, before I quit on that distributorship job, I was like, maybe it's because I don't have my own truck, or I was working with a small truck, a small pickup, and then now I was like, let me go for a lorry. But see, I've increased my income, but then I was not income, but my expense. but then my sales were not going up proportionate. I went back to the pickup. It made a bit more sense because it was lesser. But then at the long run, I decided to buy a tuk-tuk that it could do the runs, because this I was using other people's things. So you're just paying out. But even with all that, it was not working. The reason was because my vision was not aligned with Pepsi's vision and operations, because that is how I wanted to operate. I had a specific area to distribute at, but then they were also encroaching in my area. And no matter how many meetings we had as distributors to try and align this, it was not just being had. And then there was also their own internal issues with their teams that were also just hindering growth. And it would be pushed product. You're told Friday you have to buy things worth $500,000, and you still have stock sitting there, So that's when you realize things are not working, when it's not going by in a way that you can see these are the gains. If I sit back and I'm like, I went to work, I am fulfilled, here is the result in monetary form, because we all do what we do to make money. On top of that, if it's your passion, if it's your talent, we all do it so that we can have money to live a good life or to meet our basic needs and generally just be able to get what we need to survive. So when you see that, it's not that you have to have a mentor to let you to guide you and tell you when to stop, but you have to also learn to trust your instinct and just see in black and white. When I put the pen down and balance my books and it's not working, and I've tried every marketing, I've tried everything that I can in my powers for that scale of business, and I've sat with other people who've done this before, and I've listened, I've put it into account. If it's not working, it's not working. Let it go. Just it's safer before you are too invested and you dig yourself a hole in debt that you cannot come out of.